Oh man, what's really good, family tree? Let me know if you are here with me right now. Just hit me up in the comment section. Let me know if you're here right about now. I'm about to go in. I see a lot of you guys have been commenting, wanting to know more about this particular topic. We're talking about the original Muhammad, the historical Muhammad. I keep on bringing up the fact that in terms of the Sirah Maghazi literature, i.e. Islamic literature, right here, okay? This is the very first literature that was produced by Muslims, okay, which mentions Muhammad, gives us his story, his histories, expeditions, everything is in here, right? In this book, right, we don't only have the Prophet of Islam, i.e. Muhammad, that we all are familiar with. We also have the first, the original, the prototype Muhammad is being mentioned in this book. Literally on the 22nd page of this book, before we get the story of Muhammad, roughly around the 100th page, we are introduced to the first Muhammad of history. Boom, bang, bang, boom. So, family tree, if you are here with me, I need some participations from you guys, if possible, right? Because I've seen a lot of you guys are hitting me up at the comment section. Hopefully you guys have got the notification. So if you don't have the notification button, pinged right now, please ping that notification button so you can be notified anytime that we have these shows going live. Okay. So, recently I put up the picture that should be on the thumbnail right now of this particular show, talking about Muhammad, the original Muhammad. He was crowned by Abraha. And this crowning was a very specific type of crowning. We find it later on with inside of Islamic records where they try to downgrade the crowning. Actually, no, some even upgraded. Some even say that, Abraha made him a king. Others say that, no, it wasn't anything to do with religion. It was something to do with Tabani, for example, so that he was made a military leader, and no, he didn't do any dawah or propaganda. He was strictly only doing fighting, which kind of goes against what the actual literature says. So I wanted to just bring up that particular pericope with inside of Ibn Ishaq and show you what it's talking about, because again, most of us were lacking historical knowledge and we're lacking cultural knowledge, meaning if you don't understand the culture of the time, how are you going to understand like what you're reading exactly, right? So I'm going to bring it up on the screen if I can. I'm going to try. I haven't even practiced this yet. So I'm going to try to bring up on the screen for you guys to see what we're discussing right now. And it's very, very interesting because, as I said, this is the original Muhammad, the Abyssinian Muhammad, right? This is the real Muhammad I want everybody to get to know about. Later on, I can kind of throw you out some more information. So, for example, I usually read out this particular narrative right here, which is, okay, let me tell you a story of a man in the 6th century who was destined to be a prophet of the Arabian Peninsula. He was a preacher who preached his message throughout Mecca to those who would listen, but gloom and despair was upon him, for he was cast out by his tribe. But fortunately, he was able to convince his followers to emigrate to Abyssinia, where he fostered a wonderful relationship with his Ethiopian king. As he grew in power and status, he was appointed military leader. He would regularly do dawah to persuade the Arabs to make pilgrimage to the Kaaba. But the people turned against him, which finally led him to make an expedition against them in Mecca. His hope from start to finish was to convert the people to his new religion. And again, family, if I asked you all the question of who is this person that we're talking about, everybody would say, this is Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then I'll ask, what is this new religion he brought? Everybody would say, it's Islam. And the scholars would say, no, it's proto-Islam. It was Christianity, a form of Christianity, a new religion. And it wasn't Muhammad that we find about in the standard Islamic narrative. No, this is the pre-Islamic, proto-Muhammad that we find underneath the Abyssinian rulership of Arabia. Okay, so it's that Muhammad that I want to talk about. In the Islamic records, they call him Muhammad bin Khuzai. Okay, this is the Muhammad that I want to talk about. Okay, the first, the original Muhammad. Everybody, I'm talking like academia, Western academia. Everybody's in search of Muhammad to find the historical Muhammad. And I'm like, why are you in search? It's right there. All you have to do is now dig into Ethiopian records, Abyssinian records to actually find what went down, you know? So real quickly, for those of you guys who are new to this channel, you know, I'm bringing this up to the forefront to get you guys to know a bit more of this topic, which is the Christian proto-Muhammad, the one that we can find written about with inside of the Islamic records, referring to the Abyssinian Muhammad. This Christian, as you saw on the front cover, this Christian Muhammad was appropriated, taken, stolen, even, and then later made into the Islamic Muhammad. He was the prototype. Okay. So we're going to go into some of this information very shortly, but I really just want to, before we even get into, you know, the taking off of this Muhammad and making it into the new Muhammad, which is, for some people, I realize it is getting very complicated. And I'm like, okay, cool. How can I don't want to say dumb it down, but how can I just make it very simple and easy to digest? So what I'm going to discuss with you guys is this particular Muhammad, the Christian Muhammad, the Abyssinian Muhammad, the original Muhammad. I'm going to introduce him to you guys. And that's all I want to speak about to you today. And then we can move on to something a bit more, you know, complicated later on, because we need to get this information down first. So if I can get my PDF screen up, perfect. Let's make this screen a bit larger. Amazing. Actually, no, I don't need to make the screen larger. All I need to do is go over to it. Okay, so I want to go over, 1 second, family. I've got so many tabs opened up. So I want to go over, we can go to Ibn Ishaq. As I said, this is the book right here on Ibn Ishaq. Okay, as you can see there on the top right hand corner, you should see the number 23. But obviously, of course, the next page onwards is number 22. And it's coming from this book, right? This book, well-read book, okay? And as you can see right here, it's called The Life of Muhammad. And as I said, before you even get into, you know, into what they're telling you of the story of the Islamic Muhammad, you first learn about this particular Muhammad, okay? Let's see if I could just bring it up on the screen nicely. I'll have to just make things a bit smaller. Give me a second. Bear with me. Let's bring me up to about here. Let's make me a bit smaller, a bit over to the left some more. And then let's go back to the other page and maybe make this a bit smaller as well. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. One more smaller. Nope, that's too small for you guys. Let's make it one more bigger. There we go. That should be enough. And then there we go. Yeah, that should be okay. Let me go back up here. There you go. Cool. So, as I was saying, you know, we're going to get to this point here. So basically right here, we have Abraha has basically built a cathedral. Yeah, he's built a cathedral. Yeah, let's quickly see. He's built a cathedral. He's now, you know, summoned the Arabs to come to him for a particular reason. It seems as though in here, they don't even know what the reason is. All right, but let's quickly get into it. Okay, so right here, with Abraha, there were some Arabs who had come to seek his bounty. Okay, so now the starting point of the story is a bunch of Arabs have come seeking a reward from their king. What have they done to even deserve a reward? One may ask. Anyways, among them, Muhammad bin Khuzai bin Khuzaba al-Dhakwani al-Sulami. Okay, so the first introduction of Muhammad is right here, with a number of his tribesmen, including a brother of his called Qays. While they were with him, a feast of Abraha occurred. So, right here, from this information, we find here the cathedral was built. The Arabs came to him, seeking his bounty. Among them was Muhammad and his tribesmen, while there was a feast going on. Okay, perfect. Let's just continue the story over here. Again, if you're a Muslim and you don't have this book, I don't understand why not. Surely you must want to learn about your religion and the history of your religion. And this is the first person that we have that gives you the history of Muhammad. The original person who we did have, which was Uthman's son, Aban, Abdul Malik, burnt his book. Burnt his version because it was just too much of boosting up the Ansars, the black men of Medina. So they said, nope, let's burn your books. And they were related to the Yemenis. So they're like, nope, we're not having the story of them being told. We want to tell our story. Interesting. But anyways, that was just a little sidebar. Anyways, so his whole purpose was inviting them, was to show that he had honored them. Then he crowned Muhammad. He crowned Muhammad, and after crowning Muhammad, he made him an Amir, or some places you'll find it as a governor, of Mudar, and ordered him to go among the people to invite them to pilgrimage at his cathedral, which he had built. So this is the first introduction in Ibn Ishaq's work. We also find it, of course, in Tabari, which is over here as well. Let's see if we can get it up. Yep, right here, same story being told. This is Tabari, volume 5, page 218 to 219. Same story. Now Abraha had in his retinue some men of the Arabs who had come to seek his bounty, including Muhammad ibn Khuzai, etc., etc., etc. He then crowned Muhammad ibn Khuzai and appointed him governor over Mudar. He further commanded him to go out among the Arabs to summon them and to make pilgrimage to his cathedral, etc., etc., etc. Cool. Interesting. Let me just close this down. So back to it. So we find that there was some sort of crowning of Muhammad. Okay. And again, this is the original Muhammad. We're not talking about the Muhammad of Islam. Okay. Not just yet. We're not talking about him. We're talking about the original Muhammad, this Muhammad right here, who was crowned. Now, for me, right, I understand history. Let's quickly do this. I understand history. And in understanding history, I understand. Let's just make sure I can bring this up for you guys. 1 second. Let's make this a bit smaller. I don't need to actually. I could put that there. Cool. So yeah, in understanding history, I'm like, oh snap! Guess what? I've actually read this before. A very similar story like this before, right? A very, very similar story. And guess where it's found? It's found on the Marib Dam. The Marib Dam. 1 second. The Marib Dam inscription by Abraha. It sounds very much so similar to that story. All right. And in that story, we see also that there is a gathering of the Arabs. Yeah. The Arab emissaries went to the city of Marib. There was a festival, which was, there was a celebration of mass or a consecration of the church in Marib. We find that there is also a coronation taking place. I'll go through to the coronation because that one is a bit trickier to go through. We find that there is a cathedral or a church being mentioned. We find that the person that's being, doing all this to or for is the leader, which in the Islamic records is Muhammad, but in the Marib Dam, it is called Abu Qasim, which basically means the high priest or the chief priest. So we find this story, this same story seems to be there, right? But somehow most people, because they don't understand history, they might completely miss what's going on. Because over here, it says here, he entered the city of Marib and consecrated the church of Marib, since there was a priest or an abbot of his monastery. Now, for those of you guys who know canon law, in order to consecrate a church or to celebrate mass, as they're trying to do here, a bishop must be present. A bishop must be present. But the problem is, Abraha didn't have a bishop for the longest time. Why do you say that, Callum? Let me just go over here quickly. This is where you have to learn history and understand history to kind of get it. Okay, so and I'm inviting you guys to come on in. Actually, I want you guys to come on in because you guys have been in the comment section, and I know you guys want to get in on this. Okay, so over here we are right now in the life and works of Saint Gregorius, but this is quoting something from John of Ephesus from the Chronicles of where is the proper name? Pseudo Dionysius. Don't know why it's not there properly, of Tel Mare. And in here, it talks about, okay, let me read it. He, the king of the Ethiopians, sent to Alexandria for a bishop and received one from there before the doctrine of the Chalcedonian synod had penetrated those parts. The bishop, after being in his country, briefly paid his debt to nature. And the king of the Homerites, i.e. Abraha right here, having learnt that the doctrine of the Chalcedonian synod had been introduced into Alexandria and that Theodosius had been expelled on account of his faith and deposed because he recalled from embracing the synod, the king himself, offended by this, refused to accept a bishop from Alexandria. Okay, so we have here that Abraha refused to have a bishop from Alexandria. Okay, cool. All right. Then we go further down and we'll find out something a bit more interesting. Let me see if I could just make this a bit bigger. Come on, let's maximize this. Okay, cool. Anyways, okay, cool. Here we go. On no account, however, would they be persuaded to receive anyone who approved the synod. Conversely, they would welcome a bishop who condemned it. Yet, the emperor himself ordered it not to be conceded according to their wishes. Thus, every year they went back to the issue. An ambassador came to him from the three aforesaid kingdoms and were dismissed, having accomplished nothing. Up to about 25 years. I think some places it says 23 years. I thought it was 23 years. But anyways, 25 years. Cool. 25 years. They were going back and forth because they just didn't have a bishop. They literally did not have a bishop. Cool. Until finally all the priests had died out and disappeared from these people. Since they were exhausted in struggling for so long without obtaining a bishop opposed to the synod, they eventually reached a point that, against the prescription of the canons, having convened the presbyters, i.e. the priests, they held the gospels over the head of one of them. Here he is, they said, invested with episcopacy. For they thought that in this way the ordering of a bishop had been performed, without even taking into consideration the rank of the layman. But most people were offended by such way of ordering, rejecting it, did not acknowledge its legitimacy, hence great dissension arose among them. So because of the lack of a bishop, I could read here, because of a lack of a bishop, a further heresy was born and came to prevail in those lands, the era of Melchizedekians, who temporarily asserted the identity of Melchizedek in Christ, owing to the conduct of one and the same people. Not only was the church divided, but the kingdom was split into two parts, and wars, schisms, and seditions were to spread throughout those countries for a long time to come. Lastly, Fantasius from the sect of Julianus, Gaianus, poured out into these regions and affected them. Okay, cool. So, And it continues over here. Let's quickly see. We may wonder whether the historical Gregentius was not in fact that bishop who must have been a contemporary of Abraham, whose election against the canons seemed to John of Ephesus to be the cause of ecclesiastical and political divisions in the kingdom, a situation that is recalled, albeit indirectly, by the mentions of Sirius, Mazruk, Sarahil, the prince, who shared the kingdom with his brother Yaxum, blah, 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 blah. Cool. It continues. All other relevant evidence except the BIOS has in common that a person called Gregentius is unknown in it. In particular, the Arabian section on the BIOS seems to give an identity both to the presbyter invested with episcopacy by the Homerite clergy in the already quoted fragment of John of Thesis and the holy and unorthodox bishop only hinted at in the Matrion of Arethrus. Okay, so we can see that there's so much literature, okay, about the time of Abraha, i.e. the king of the Himyarites, right? Where in the martyrdom of Eritrea, we find this. In the, John of Ephesus talks about what's going on here. We find it also in, what's the other martyrdom of Nadran? They talk about this as well. So all these people are talking about a certain incident took place where a bishop was made into a bishop by the king of the Himyarites, or underneath the kingdom of the Himyarites. Cool. And this bishop later on became obviously the archbishop. Why is he the archbishop? Because as the bishop, he's able to make others into bishops and so forth, and make people into priests and make people into deacons. And he can actually consecrate churches and all the and celebration of mass, etc. Because that's what a bishop has the power to do. So we see that all these different people, all these, the Syriac Christians, the Arabic Christians, the Greek or Byzantine Christians are all discussing this point. But here comes the Arabs, the Arab historians, the Islamic Arabs now come and says, do you see what? You see what took place that after Abraha built his cathedral? And then supposedly now he crowned somebody after all of the Arabs come together. Yeah, we're now going back to that story of what the other Christians are talking about. They're talking about, they call him different names, or they don't even mention these names. They call it an anonymous bishop or the Holy Orthodox bishop, right? They give him all different titles and names. But guess what the Arabs do? They say that was Muhammad. Ooh. But wait, what? Yeah, the person who's given the crown, because obviously the crown. Every crown has a throne, right? Every throne has a crown. And if you know about the episcopacy or the see of certain places, see or the cathedrals meaning cathedra. Let me actually do this real quickly. Let's quickly just do this so you lot can understand a bit more. Because I like it where we can all follow along. Let's quickly do this. Let's type in cathedral. Did I type in cathedral right? There you go. Cathedral is a church that contains the cathedra, Latin for seat of a bishop, thus serving as a central church of a diocese, conference, or episcopate. Okay? Churches with the function of cathedral are usually specific to those Christian denominations, blah, 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 blah. So we find here that Abraha did not have a bishop for however many years. His kingdom didn't have a bishop for 25 years. And if you go back, you'll understand that when King Caleb came in and then that bishop died, for that period of time, there was only priests because there was no bishops given at that time. And there was this whole, Chalcedonian synod on the King Leo came in. So they're like, nope, we don't accept it. So therefore, no new bishops can be given. Anyways, and Abraham said, now, on that, I'm going to build myself a cathedral. Boom, bangers. I am independent of Axum. I'm building myself a cathedral. And within inside of the cathedral, there is going to be a throne called the See of Habasha. And inside of the See of Habasha, I am going to, crown or ordinate my own bishop, okay, which is now picked up from the Islamic records. And the Islamic records tells you that he crowned and made this religious leader gave this religious leader the crown of bishopness, or whatever you want to call it, and told him to go and make people, do pilgrimage to this cathedral, and go forth, and do your works as a bishop, basically. Yeah. So it's like very, very interesting that we literally go back into Islamic records to find out about Abyssinian African history, African Christian history that had been lost, because most people won't even know this stuff. Most people might have thought that Abraha was a myth until we found his inscriptions, until we see that his inscriptions line up even to what the Muslims, Arab scholars are actually saying. This is powerful stuff. I know I'm gassed about this stuff, yeah? And it's only because I read history and I'm like, rah, this is mad, But I know some of you, you're not going to see what I'm seeing in it, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. But we can have a conversation. So what I'm going to do right now, yeah, I'm going to open it up so we can actually have that conversation. If you guys want to have a conversation, simply just message me, say, oh, yo, Cal, just send me the link, yeah, because I don't agree with what you're saying, for example, because I've had a couple of my brothers saying, I don't agree with what you're saying. I'm like, cool, I don't mind. Come on in and we can have that conversation. Let me just, hold on 1 second. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. I'm sweating here, though. Yeah, cool. 1 second, family. Cool. So what I'm going to do right now is just open it up, because I haven't even come prepared properly to do a real proper show. And I'm going to open it up and just read some of your comments and see what you guys have to say. Let's maximize this window. Go on, maximize it. Let's full screen it. Let's go. Full screen, please. Entire screen. Okay. Questy says, Christianity is Kemetic spiritual way of life. Okay. Hassan says, some say he is a king or cow. He's a king. I'm missing this live again. I will watch later. Appreciate the sharing. Okay, cool. I'm going to start from the start. See you later. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Do ×2 speed. Always catch up. Always watch these programs on ×2 speed, yeah. So anyways, Family Tree, if you actually are enjoying the show, please hit us up with a quick like. And again, if for you, those of you guys who actually want to come on in, I'm only going to be here for a few minutes, actually. I'm going to just drop this, because you know what I'm trying to do is just drop you lot some quick gems. You guys go off and do your research, which I have been seeing. A lot of you guys have been doing your research and been sending me messages, which I really, really appreciate. Let's get this cam link up. And then audio is that. Cool. Let's get you invite guests. Copy that. And here you go. Here is the link. Golly, these lights and in here is hot. Family Tree, if you're liking the show so far, please hit us up with a like button and let us know that you're actually enjoying the show. The link has been shared. Man like Akan, man like Vegeta, I know you guys was trying to get at me to say, yeah, I can prove you wrong. All right. Let me actually message a couple of you guys now. Yeah, because I was talking like you got something powerful to get at me. I'm live. Jump in. Cool. Yeah. So now is everybody's opportunity. If you have questions, something that you don't understand, come on in, ask the questions, and I will point you in the right direction. Okay. As always, yeah, I'm always amazed at the fact, we can literally go through and find over 25, parallels between the Muhammad of Abyssinia on the Abraha and the Muhammad of the Islamic records. Okay. We can find over 25. I know I found like at least 30, but I thought some of them is not even relevant. But sometimes when I go into it, I'm like, oh, right, this is actually more relevant than I thought. Okay. So before I've showed you guys that, the Muhammad that's mentioned on page 22 of this book, there is 25 different parallels at least. Both were named Muhammad. Both say that their ancestry goes back to Khuzai or Khuza. Both are titled Abu Qasim. Both have the title apostle. Both associated with prophethood. Both brought a new religion. Both received a holy book from God. Both carried out religious propaganda in Mecca. Both legislated for the Arabs. Both engaged in religious debates, especially with Jews. Both persuading Arabs to make Hajj to a Kaaba. Both associated with erecting and consecrating places of worship. Both have an election narrative as a religious official. So I found this very interesting. Yeah, we have in this records, I think this is the Syriac records of Tel Mar. It talks about the priests gathered together and selected or elected one of them by simply putting a gospel over their head to say, yeah, you are elected as the new, bishop. You're going to be ahead of us. And then within inside of the Islamic records, we have the rebuilding or the building of the Kaaba by the Abyssinian called Bakum, who was sent by the emperor of Byzantine, with metals and woods and marbles, etc., to rebuild Abyssinian churches. But somehow he found his way in Mecca to rebuild the Kaaba, which is not a church. No, it's not a church, even though there's pictures of Jesus and Mary in it. But it's not a church, supposedly. That's by the Islamic records. Anyways, cool. They have that story. And then we have the election narrative. They're fighting off who's going to be the one to put the stone on top, blah, blah, blah. And then it decided to say whoever comes in the door next will be the one who's elected to be the umpire or to be the person on top of us. And then Muhammad comes in and they said, yep, we choose you. You are, what's it called? Al-Mu'mineen. No, not Al-Mu'mineen. What's it called? What's the truthful? I can't remember. Whatever the word, the trustworthy. You Al-Alamin. Yeah, you are the trustworthy. So we make you ahead of us. So they both have that election story where, the religious heads connected to the church yet again are now electing somebody to be the head of them all. Interesting stories. But anyways, let's continue. They both were cast out by their tribes. They both made an expedition against Mecca. They both emigrated to Ethiopian territory. They both had a close relationship with the Ethiopian king. They both were supposedly military leaders. Both were said to be descendants of Kinda or Quraysh. Both reportedly killed on the battlefield or falsely reportedly killed on the battlefield. Both affected by the plague. Both said to have died shortly after the Ethiopian king's death. The Ethiopian king's son, Sharahil, followed him when he reigned, i.e. followed the Islamic Muhammad and the other Muhammad as well, Abyssinian Muhammad, and both had delegations of the Najashi, Khusro, Caesar, and Arab vassal kings that came to them or letters sent to them, etc. Okay, so all of these different things, yeah. And then for me, when I see all these different things, like 1 is an incident, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern, and then when you get down to so much, it's either 1, the way I see it, this is my hypothesis, is either 1 is stealing or taken from another one, i.e. 1 is borrowing the story from another one, and then you'd obviously say the latter one would be borrowing the story from the earlier one. Evidently, obviously, how else is it going to be? It's either that or what I soon came to realize, because they shared so much similarities, I realized, no, actually, they're both one and the same individual. They're both one and the same individual. But how? Why is it? How can you say they're both one and the same individual when chronologically they're supposed to be, one happened, for example, one was reigning from 550 to 570 at least. Let's just say at least, according to the Islamic records, right? At least till 570. Whereas the other one was only born in 570 and, was ruling from 610. Then we realized that the Islamic chronology is messed up, number 1. Academia tells you that it's all messed up. I could give you 100 citations to show you that it's messed up. 2, we realized that the stories are so much the same. Even for example, you have in Muhammad, he also has an Ethiopian king. But guess what? That Ethiopian king is anonymous in the earlier stories. In the earlier stories, it's anonymous. And then they give him a name later on called Ashama. And then they're like, we don't have anybody by the name of Ashama as an Ethiopian king. So where are you getting that from? And the closest to that name is a king that ruled, in the 400s BC. So like, where are you getting this name from? So until we realize that, hold on, no. We follow the story of that anonymous king, and we realize that anonymous king is literally the same as Abraha. We even find the same story of Abraha actually writing to the Byzantine king, asking for, materials to build the Abyssinian churches, and he sends a workman for him as well. It's like, hold on, he sent him a workman with the same materials of marble, woods, and metals, but yet in the Muhammad story, the emperor also sent a workman with marbles, blah, 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 blah. It's like, huh? Is either we're retelling the same story or it's just the same story retold in another way. And that's why I was like, yeah, this has to be that. But anyways, we got Croy Father up in the building. Let me get him in. Croy Father, what you saying to me, King?
Hi, what's up?
What's good? Let me just up the volume. Talk to me.
So yeah, I wanted to raise a question about Mecca. Because I've been doing a lot of research too on this period, and it seems that there is a problem on where is Mecca of the Quran, because modern Mecca doesn't seem to fit the city of back then, and I want to know what's your opinion on it.
Yeah, I would say, I think, and I haven't done enough research on it personally, but I looked at it, and I think I looked at the word Mecca being used in the Quran. And to me, the word Mecca being used in the Quran, I think it's only being used once in the Quran. And for me, it seems as though it's, how can I put it? What the early storytellers would do is make exegesis of Quranic passages. So you have a Quranic passage that says Mecca. So guess what they do? I'm not saying this is what they did though. It's a possibility that they have created a whole city called Mecca based upon the word Mecca within inside of the Quran. I looked at the word Mecca, and basically it just means inside or inside a heart, basically. So for me, it just looks like that's what
I
they
agree
did.
with that. I think they made it up later.
They literally just took it, exegesized the word, let's fill in. So for example, we have the missing history of Jesus. Let's give you that, for example. So the time before Jesus' ministry, some people made up stories of what took place in his youth, right? So we can say, for example, the stories of him in Yathrib, Muhammad being in Yathrib, seems to be a bit more legit, right? He came to Yathrib and he did blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. So they said, okay, let's give him a backstory. Let's retrograde him into a place called Mecca, which there is no records of a Mecca, I think until the late 700s or, somewhere in the 700s. So it just seems as though that's what they did. Because there was no relevance for Mecca in the early years. It was always Yathrib and Damascus area, Jerusalem area. Those were the holy lands. But later on, Mecca became a holy land. And I personally haven't done the research in it because to me, it's too later for the period of history that I'm looking at. I'm looking at proto-Islam, paleo-Islam, the time period before we get the caliphates, before we get the dynasties. I'm looking at the period before that. And that period...
Yeah, me too. I'm really interested in that period. But
yeah,
to me, when you make historical research, you also need to take in account that not only did people change the story, invented something, grafted something from other culture and stuff like that, but what I noticed is that the geography become also somewhat like a mythology. Like for
Yes.
example, I think Jerusalem is another places where in the antique world, nobody talks about any Jerusalem.
Hmm.
Nobody. There is no text from the Egyptian talking about Jerusalem. There is almost nothing.
Hmm.
But it seems like later people appropriated this concept and created a real city
Yeah,
based on this theological concept. So to me, it poses another problem. What actually happened?
that's right.
Uh, you know
Because
what I mean?
yeah, you have more.
And where it happened. To me, it's the biggest point is where, because we are all convinced that the entire Old Testament, New Testament, the Quran is around the Levant, the Sinai, and the Red Sea. But yeah, I'm not convinced about that. I'm like, the geography could be completely different, and people just reinterpreted this later when they, I don't know, rediscover those texts or something like that.
I think you've got a good grounding on what you're saying there, 100%. Let me open it up now to a Can who's just joined us. Can, what are you saying to me, King?
Yes, peoples. We saying you bless, yeah?
Hmm. There.
Come on, man. You know the
Yes, me
smoke's
too.
coming.
I know. I don't know if you've watched a bit of the show so far and what you wanted
No,
to.
I just come in late still.
Okay.
See you live.
Okay.
Just jump on.
So okay, cool. I know you've got your own stuff because we've been talking in the behind closed doors. So what's the smoke you're trying to bring today?
Yeah, man. Back. Continue the convo, innit? So back to the convo. With the Abu Qasim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the same word. The Qasim used in the inscription wouldn't be the same word as Abu Qasim, because the Qasim in the inscription, that's, if you take away the M, is M. If you take away the M or keep the M, it means priest. And the Qasim in Abu Qasim, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that Qasim means distribution. So these are two different words. The Qasim in the inscription would be equivalent to Qasim, Qasim or whatever, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the only difference is the N and the M. So once we understand this, then we know that it's actually not the same word. So if it's not the same word, it's not the same title. If it's not the same title, it's not the same individual.
So real quickly, for those of you guys who are just coming in and don't know what my brother is talking about, let me just quickly give it to you now. So basically, we have here the parallel chart, lists out about 25 different parallels. And I say that both Muhammads were called Abu Qasim. So right there, I put the Sabaik inscription, which is CIH 541, particularly line 67. We find Abu Qasim there. And then Muhammad of Islam, let's just quickly do that, is known as Abu Qasim. Yeah, there you go. Abu Qasim. Yeah, Abu Qasim. So my brother is saying that, yeah, basically, Abu Qasim and Abu Qasim is not the same. They may sound the same, but they're not the same because they have two different meanings, right? I would assume that would be the argument, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say to him, do you know what? I don't have no problem with that what you're saying, because my claim is, number one, that they both mean the same thing. So I don't have no problem with that particularly. I could give you an argument, but I don't have no problem with that. I just simply said that they're both titled Abu Qasim. So the question is Muhammad titled Abu Qasim? The answer is yes, he is titled Abu Qasim. Is the person in the dam titled Abu Qasim? Yeah, he is titled Abu Qasim. Now, the problem is do they mean the same thing? I haven't particularly put forward the argument that they mean the same thing, but I can. And how I can do this is simply, and I'm not choosing to do this, I'm not putting this officially to say this is it, right? My question to you is this. What does Abu Qasim mean from the Islamic standpoint?
Father distribution.
Father of distribution. Perfect. Yeah. Now, the question is, to you. Do Muslim scholars say that, or are you just saying that? Because Muslim scholars don't say that, or the Muslim community don't say that. They invent a child. They invent a son for the Prophet Muhammad and call him Qasim, and says that Muhammad is Abu, i.e. the father of Al-Qasim.
Fair play. If that's what you're saying, which I don't agree, but let's just say that's what you're saying. It still goes back to the meaning and the office of Abu Qasim.
Yeah.
Because we would actually have to see the Arabic script of even that word itself, if you really want to take it there. But based on the knowledge, general knowledge, it means distribution. Even the word is found in the Quran. So
my question to you is, who were the first person or people that we are introduced to that called him Abu Qasim?
I can't recall off the top of my head, but that's not the issue there.
Let me tell you.
It's the position of office, but go on.
Let me tell you. It's the Christians from Najran, i.e. the Ethiopian Christians from Najran, that come in and call him Abu Qasim.
Who?
The first time that we're introduced to the term Abu Qasim is there. Let me quickly see if I can do this. Najran, let's see, Christians, and let's type in Abu Qasim. Let's see if we can see it come up. Okay, cool. Let's see. Sorry, this is just a quick Google. I haven't done the research to properly go into you and give you something good. It says here, all right, from the Muhammad, the Prophet, to the bishops of Najran and the people of Najran invite you towards worship. No, they're saying it. Where is it? Let's just type in Qasim so we can just quickly move forward. Okay, cool. Ibn Sa'd says, when these ayat came down, came to him, the Prophet called them. Okay, let's see. The people of the book, they said, oh, Abu Qasim, let us think about this matter. Cool. You will find out that these people were from Najran, who was doing this, who was speaking basically. Okay, and they were Christians who were calling him Abu Qasim.
But that wouldn't be cognate with the Arabic though, because that word, the word you're trying to say that they would have called him would have been Qasim with an N at the end.
No, I'm not talking Arabic now.
You're not talking.
I'm not talking Arabic,
but that would still that the Qasim.
I'm saying
Qasim is found in Ethiopian as well.
Yeah, indeed. But we have it from the inscription, right? The word is being used as Qasim with an M at the end. Okay, so the question to you is, that document was written by Ethiopian Christians, right? The inscription was written by Ethiopian Christians. Then you have the Najrani community, which are Ethiopian Christians yet again, right? And they are referring to him, obviously in their language or in a language that is perceptible between both of them. And they're calling him Abu Qasim. My question to you is, what makes you think it is now the Arabized version of Qasim rather than the version that we can find based on epigraphy, based upon the fact that they're ethnically Ethiopian, based upon the fact they're Christian? Like, what makes you think that your Arabized version of the word Qasim, which has a whole invention, a whole story that has to be created around it, and the reason why it has to be created around it, because there is a statement of Muhammad that says, you can call yourself by any of my names, basically, but Abu Qasim, don't use that one. And they now have to invent a story to say, like, okay, what do you like? Because they don't know this word Qasim.
So are you saying Qasim don't mean distribution because it's blatantly found in the Quran and it is an Arabic word?
I am saying to you, yes, you can find Qasim within inside of the Quran and it is an Arabic word, right? But I'm asking to you, right, if we first find the introduction of him being given this title, Abu Qasim, what makes you
know what you're gonna have to do? You're gonna have to provide this name. You see, within the Sirah, you're gonna have to bring out the Arabic and we can read the actual wording. Because right now, I'm not convinced at the argument at all.
Okay,
I hear what you're saying.
So I'm saying to
but
you,
we're actually gonna have to read the wording and be like, you
cool.
make a
So
point.
I'm saying to you, right? Yeah, you have Christians, Ethiopian Christians, going to Muhammad and calling him Abu Qasim, right? In the Syriac literature.
But we're reading it in English, man. We have to see, because you see me even having this argument in the first place is based on me reading the transliteration of the Sabiac text.
Yeah, cool.
So the transliteration is basing it off the actual text, so it's not really them English phonetics. It's not that.
Okay.
We need to see the actual. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
then
but I'm saying to you, I'm giving it to you that in the Syriac literature, right, it's gonna be spelt the same way as, the Arabized way, basically, Qasim. Yeah.
But that don't make sense because the word is in the Quran as
well. That's what I'm saying to you. It's going to be that. Like however you find it in the Quran, it's going to be that, right? So your meaning of distributor, okay? They're calling him Abu Qasim, okay? These Ethiopian Christians are calling him that term. What do they mean by that term when they call him that term? To you, what do you think they mean? I
know he had a son called Qasim.
He had a son called Qasim, but before you said that it meant the father of distribution.
Yeah, the father, basically his son's called Qasim, but you can understand it from a different point of that. Like, what I know of him being Abu Qasim is based on his son.
Okay,
whatever meaning we can bring out of it after is the meaning we can bring out of it after.
His son,
but
right?
The whole point of it was based on his son, to my knowledge.
Cool. So let's just say he's got a son called Al-Qasim. Yeah? Let's just say he's got a son called Al-Qasim. Give me some information about this son. What do we know of him?
I can't hear you.
What do we know about this person called Al-Qasim? What do we know? Tell me something about him.
We know that he died at a young age.
He died at a young age. Do you know why he died at a young age?
Can't remember exactly, but he died at a young age.
Because all Muhammad's male children have to die at a young age. Because it can't go against the Quran. Meaning,
see what you're saying then? I can fling it with Muhammad al-Quza'a. So I can't pronounce.
But let's stick to this point, right? Let's stick to this point. So you're saying that he died at a young age. So if he died at a young age, why are these Najrani Christians calling him by his son's name that, well, he wouldn't be alive at this point if he's still if he died at a young age, this child wouldn't be alive, right?
Yeah, go on.
So why are they calling him by a kunya of a child that is not alive?
When the Najran met him, where was this, in Mecca or Medina?
This would have been the Medinian period.
Oh, the Medinian period, yeah. Okay. I have no problem.
They had to. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you. They had to invent. They had to invent sons. They had to invent sons. Like all of Muhammad's sons, for example, they say that he had a son called Al-Tahir, Tahara, Tazana. Go ahead.
I get your point, but hold on. I get your point, but let's just say, cool, that was a title of office, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna actually have to prove it to me though, like, because whatever you're saying is still your conjecture. Yeah, is your little, you know what I mean? It's still not. That the Qasim, I can still literally say how it is. The accusation you're saying, you're gonna have to prove that they made it up and all of this. That's just your claim. You know what I mean? But even if it was a title, I haven't really got an issue with that either way.
But again, I'm not even making the claim. I know it to be. How can I put it? I personally think that is the case. I just don't make the argument because it's long to be trying to prove this.
So then, cool.
It's long. Cool. So that's why I don't make the argument in the first place, because you've how can I put it? You straw man me into saying like as though I have made the argument. I personally haven't made the argument because it's all long. Because now I have to, like, why am I going to make my life more difficult than it is? I know this stuff. I know that they've made up names for the children of the Prophet. I know that they've made up. I know that they made up so many different things, but to now go ahead and actually decisively prove it, it's just taking me off mission, man. That's long.
So is it fair to say that they made up Muhammad al-Khuzai as well?
Well, if they did make him up, right? If they did make up Muhammad al-Khuzai, the question is why? For what reason would they have made up this Muhammad? It doesn't fit into, they now have to explain, they actually had to later on explain away this Muhammad. What do I mean by this? They now have to say, oh yes, there was, other people before Muhammad, i.e. Prophet Muhammad of Islam, that was named Muhammad. And this was one of those individuals. They now have to admit to that fact that there was other Muhammads in the times. And like, why would they make that up? Then they have to now try to, for example, Tabani now has to say, yeah, he wasn't involved in religious propaganda. No, that's not what he was doing. So trying to erase that side of this particular Muhammad ibn Khuzai. So no, I personally don't think they made it up. Then we can go back into, for example,
I'm not saying they made it up.
I know. And then we can go into the inscriptions.
Kind of thing standard you're putting for Muhammad ibn Abdullah. There's actually like the same, because you're using Islamic sources to bring up Muhammad al-Khuzai.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, because we think, hold on 1 second. 1 second. Because if we go into, for example, the Greek texts from the Christians, we find him being mentioned. Hold on, let me just quickly do this. But his name is not called Muhammad. Okay, so we find it from their text that his name is being mentioned as Muhammad. So over here, we have something here, which is called the Life and Works of Saint Gregentius. Okay, he was this archbishop. So anyways, let me quickly see if I can read it. Okay, cool. Therefore, when the whole kingdom of the Homerites, here we are, basically, Abraha's kingdom, had been enlightened and was piously Christian, there was great joy in the holy churches of God, and all celebrated with desire the feasts of Christ, and deep peace was everywhere. And the king living, free from care, together with the most holy archpriest of God. See this term here, archpriest, even though he's an archbishop, even them are using the term archpriest, which in the language of the Sabaic inscriptions is called Abu Qasim. This is just another proof, that the inscriptions is talking about an archpriest, even though there's a title called archbishop. Why did they use both archpriest and archbishop? Because he was an archpriest, right? That was then made into an archbishop. Cool. Anyways, it continues. Let's quickly read this. Let's read this here, because you find out about Abraha being a righteous king. Let's learn about this particular king. It says here, performed without hesitation the laudations of the master, which lasted all night. And as it has been said before, that he was possessed by divine zeal. This is the king. He was constantly giving alms to the weak and orphans and widows, and he dissolved every unjust contract, lifted every wicked sentence, and demanded handwritten guarantees of safety from his noblemen, not to do injustice to the poor, not to deprive someone of the right he possessed, to give it to somebody else who did not possess it, and to condemn the innocent and those that trample the law of God and the orders of his majesty underfoot, he executed by the sword in the depth of the sea. And some people say he did not spare from the revenge of the law of God, neither an official, nor a poor man, nor any other person, so that for this reason he was feared, and all were full of awe for him. For his noblemen went to him, blah, 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 blah. Let's quickly see this. So having reigned his kingdom for 30 years, he passed away from his life in peace. After the blessed Gregentius had foretold him his departure from this world, he was buried in a royal shrine in Safar, in the reigning city of the Homerites, and the whole kingdom of the Homerites lamented him greatly. His son Seridus took over the scepter of the kingdom in his place, and he governed it according to the procedure of his father, following the most blessed Gregentius most wisely in his reign as well. Very beautiful. Anyways, so we see that there is an archpriest again, and then we see that there's a righteous king, which is basically the story of Muhammad, but let's not even go too deep.
You see, when you say Abraha was a king,
Yeah.
is that your point of view, or is that the view? Because I don't know him to be a king, academically speaking.
You don't know him to be a king, academically speaking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I can pull something up.
I know him to be a general, or like a if you was to say a Amir, but a Nagus. I don't know if I'm wrong, but can you show me where he's called a Nagus?
I'll show you where it's called a king.
Not a Nagus. Because remember that they met the Najashi. So, yeah, can you show that?
I can't show you where it's called Najashi in the inscriptions. I can show you where it's called king, though.
What word would they have used for king?
I believe it would be the Arabic. The Arabic for king. The Sabaik or Arabic.
Is this coming from Islamic texts?
Nope.
All right. Yeah. Can you show that then?
Okay. So I don't know if you're on the YouTube right now.
I have to go. I'm using my other phone to see what's going on because I can't see what's going on this phone.
Let me see. With the power, let me just read through this first. Inscription. So Abraham, king. Okay, Ga'i's king. Okay, cool. So we go to CIH 541, and then we go to roughly number 5. Okay, so let's quickly go to number 5.
So what source is this you're reading from?
It's the same CIH 541. This is called Himyar Aksum and something else. I can't.
The inscription.
Yeah. So let me quickly go to it quickly for you. Oh, cool. So
oh snap, bare inscription. Hold on. Bare things going on. Hold on a second. Cool. I see it. Yeah.
Right there. So we have the term right here.
Got it.
So to translate this for you.
I can't see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So okay, so the translation that's given is this right here. Let me just start from here. You see this N at the end?
Yeah.
That basically means the. It's a particle within inside of the Sabaik language. It means the. Then you have the term right here, aga'izi, which basically means the Ge'ez
people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
And then over here again, the N at the end of the word means the yet again. And of course, you should be familiar with this word right here in the Arabic language, which is Malik or Muluk or whatever you want to say it. So it is the Ge'ezi king.
Okay.
So this is the noun, which is king, the king. And then this is the adjective, i.e. the qualifier, letting you know it is the Ge'ezi king.
So flipping, what's the
and then
ZB and YMNMLK? What's that meant to me? Yemen king.
Where? Sorry, over here.
Line 6.
Line 6. So Rahmes is another one of his titles. Yeah, again, and then we have over here Zeb. So you got the king. Yeah, so you got the king of Yemen, of Sabah.
That's where he's ruling technically.
Yeah. Of Dhu Raidan, of Hadramat, of Yamanat, and the Arabs of the, I think this is Upper Country, and Tehemat, which is like the coastline, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So he would have technically been not in. I can't say rebel, probably rebel, but he would have been at odds with Aksumite Empire technically, with this kind of titles he's got going on.
Not really, because
Azana had them similar titles as well.
Yeah, so he was made viceroy, vice regent, of the whole area. You can say that he made himself autonomous to a certain degree. But he was at odds because obviously he did change the religion over which was not Axumite Christianity. He done his own new religion. So he did break away from the Axumites, but they were still cordial with one another. And we can find that they're cordial with one another because if we go down...
But he's not recorded in the Axumite, not Axumite, the Himyar Kings list though.
There we go.
He's
I think it's
actually not in the Kings list.
Gashi. Yeah, cool. So yeah, because you'll find over here that you have he basically got the like ambassadors from the niggas from Ethiopia to come over. He got ambassadors from the Romans to come over. He got people from what's it called? Faris, what's that? The Persians to come over as well. And then the what's it called? What's they called? The Lakhmid kings and the Ghassanid kings over here to come over as well. So Harith, the son of Jabala, and also Abu Karib, who is also the son of Jabala, who was both ruling the different Arab kingdoms in the north.
No, I hear that still. I hear that, man. I hear if he annexed it or took it over still.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Let me quickly get.
Anyway, carry on your argument. Go on.
Oh, go on. Did you want to say something else? I was going to quickly get Mulatto in quickly.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot to say still, but go on, do your thing.
All right, let's quickly get Mulatto in and we can go back. Yo, what's we saying?
Peace, family, and thanks for having me up. And well, two things. Number one, I come in peace. Everything I'm saying is with respect. So I have to ask the Muslim on the panel, why do you have reverence for a man that married a 5-year-old and had sex with her when she turned 9 years old?
That's a whole nother convo for another time. I don't even mind getting into it, but I thought he was going to talk about something regarding the matter.
Well, we're speaking about your religion right now, and the prophet of your religion is the focal point of the stream. You see the title. So the question is, why do you worship and have reverence for a man that had sex with a 9-year-old that he married when she was 5 years old?
Respectfully speaking, I've not got the energy to talk about that stuff. I'm just being honest still. I just want to get into this topic we're on about. So
You cannot evade the focal point, which is your prophet. You see the name of the stream, with all due respect. And I'll say this. You, as a non-Arabian, I've noticed that many non-Arabian Muslims try to avoid this question. The Arabian Muslims, they acknowledge that Muhammad married a 5-year-old and had sex with her when she turned 9. But the
can I ask you a question?
non-Arabians...
Can I ask you a question?
Well, you haven't even answered mine, respectfully.
It's to do with what you're saying. Do you know?
All right.
Do you know about
Go ahead.
Aisha?
Is there a particular point you want to make?
Do you know about Aisha?
I know that she was 5 years old when your prophet married her, and she was 9 when your prophet sexually assaulted her.
Cool. How old was her older sister Asma compared to her? How many years are there?
Well, that's my point. If you want to make a point, make your point. But
cool.
Let's not play 21. Let's not play 21 questions.
Cool. All right, real quickly, because I'm hot. Yeah, I'm hot. I'll be real with you. So I wanted to just close this down first, and then if you guys want to have these types of discussions and debates, then feel free to jump in and have that. But that will be off air. You lot can have that conversation because I just want to close down this one. So just real quickly, is there any last comments on this particular show before I do close it down? And then we can continue off air because I can't wait to have more discussions with you guys off air. I just want to close this one down. Go ahead.
Yes, this is my closing statement. Oh, go ahead. Make your closing statement first. Go ahead.
No, you go on.
Yes, and to all the Muslims listening, you don't have to follow a pedophile forever. Change your ways. Renounce Islam, denounce Islam, and find a more righteous way of life. Really.
Okay, thank you. I can. Was there any more points on this particular topic that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, boom. I kind of got sidetracked. I had no clue what this guy was talking about. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you about the title Rasool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Because according to AI or Google or whatever you want to call it, yeah, I've gone onto that Gemini or whatever AI. I've done a couple apps and asked the same question. Yeah, the inscription, the language used on the Abraha inscription, the language that's being used, if the word Rasool was within their vocabulary, and it's not. So
yeah,
that's another case. You're gonna have to demonstrate that.
Okay,
it was Abraha that gave him the title Rasool. You're gonna have to show that.
So number one, in terms of the inscriptions, they don't utilize the term Rasool at all. In terms of whether it's actually in the Sabaic vocabulary, let me just double check. Let me double check for you to let you know if the term Rasool is in there. And yeah, we do find Rasool part of the vocabulary, i.e. as a messenger or an envoy, is there.
Where can you show?
But it's not
where do I go to verify what your claim? Because
so I'm not claiming that. Sorry, let me just make sure you know what I'm saying to you. I'm not claiming that Abraha in the inscription calls Muhammad a Rasul. I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm saying that the term, in terms of its vocabulary, the term Rasul or the rasm of the text RSL is actually inside of the inscription. It's inside of that very inscription of 541 itself.
What CIH?
Yeah.
The Sabaic inscription.
Yeah.
What line is it on? Let me go check now. Hold on a second. Okay, what line, please?
If you could see it right there.
Hold on, I can't see it. Oh, hold on, let me get my other phone, sir. I'm actually using this phone. Hold on. Okay. Cool. Can you translate it as well, yeah? So, yeah, it's concrete, so I can understand what's going on.
Jeez, you're asking a lot. So right here, you find the word Rasul being used. Yeah, and I believe this is a verb, actually. I think this is a verb when you have the W and the dots put together. And then we also find it also being used again, I think, on 91 as well. And then we also find it being used again and on 91 as well. And it just basically means here an envoy.
Okay. That's it, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, interesting still.
Okay.
Interesting, man. Interesting.
Looks
like you got me on that one then.
Yeah, I can. You know, I have to rate you because...
Like you got me on that one. No, it's cold still. It's cold. But you see what I was thinking there with the Abu Qasim thing?
Yeah.
That could just be at any title though. Because when you said that King Abraha conquered the whole of Arabia and then he put this one bishop and whatever, you got to remember the stories in the Quran. There's a tussle going on. It's not an easy spreading the word. There's fights and issues and wars and people dying. It's not a simple narrative as how you're putting it. So there's still more smoke, still forever more smoke.
Yeah, there is.
I wouldn't have a problem with the Najran Christians calling the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Abu Qasim. Because remember, in Ibn Kathir, if I'm not wrong, in his Sirah about the Prophet, is where it talks about his religion would have been the religion of Noah, Abraham, Moses, or Jesus. So if we pick Jesus, it wouldn't be far-fetched in what you're saying. It's just the context what matters.
Indeed.
But
let me
Abraha,
let me quickly say this. Yeah,
super king.
I want this though.
Understand him being a king, but I think his lineage of kingship did not carry on after him. It probably ended from him. But I could be wrong. But yeah.
Okay, so I want everybody to get this, yeah, because this is going to be like the next step. Like, we are not there yet in terms of like...
People need to come up on the panel and chat, because I see a lot of people talking shit. And it's like, if you got a problem, just come up on the panel and talk to me. You know what I'm saying? People chatting rubbish, man. So yeah, go on, Callum.
So,
go on.
Like, we're not there yet. As a community on Titans TV, we're not there yet, yeah. But when we do get there, the next frontier of the stuff that I'm discussing is going back into the inscriptions during that time period of Abraha. And that period, the scholars seem to call it the Paleo-Arabic times, or the Paleo-Islamic times, the Paleo-Quranic times, or the Paleo-Islam, Paleo-Proto-Islam. They give it these terminologies, right? And I can't wait till we get to this point and we can find a pre-Islamic Basmala, yeah? And we can really discuss this and we can see what the scholars are finding, like new work here that they're finding. Let me just quickly drop you.
There is a Basmala technically though. They've got it there in the inscriptions.
So we can see that, where
in the name of Rahman,
where Muslims have the Basmala, guess what? Abraha was the first one, or during that period was the first one to introduce that yet again, which is found inside of the Quran. In fact, it's actually headed in all of your chapters, apart from chapter 9, I believe.
You gotta remember the Jewish inscription, the Himyar inscription's got the name Rahman in it and an introduction.
No, but it doesn't have this. Look, it doesn't have line 1, Bismillah, Rahman, Rahim. Then it continues.
Bismillah, Rahman, Rahim. No, Abraha don't have it like that though.
Oh, during his time period. During his time period, outside a cave, we have it right here. Yeah.
Where?
So I'm just dropping this for now. Like, you need to wait. This is what I do, yeah. I give you guys the actual stuff to go and check out. Look, it's right here. When you have time, go and download it. It's free. Download it.
What's the source?
Ahmed Jalad, a pre-Islamic Basmala, reflection on his first epigraphic attestation and its original significance. Yeah. I believe he's a Muslim. I believe this guy's a Muslim even, but like he looks
No, but what's the Bismillah? What's it meant to say? What's the?
I'm not even gonna give you. I'm not even gonna give you that. I'm not even gonna give you that because obviously he's given his version of what it means. Other people have their own version of what it means here. You can find it right here. The Naksh Jabal Dabu. I'm gonna get into it. Yeah, so it's right there. Let's quickly go through. Ranking of the Salta, blah blah blah. Okay, so here it is. In the name of Allah, the Rahman, have mercy on us, O Lord of the heavens.
Satisfy let me fast forward my YouTube because I can't see what's going on. Hold on. Okay, yeah.
So this is his reinterpretation of the text. In the name of Allah.
Hold on. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, technically, yeah. Okay. So what's the end? The merciful, yeah, like what you said in it. Yeah. The merciful Lord of the heavens. Yeah. It is it. Yeah.
So he goes down. I'm just gonna quickly just run through this quickly. Like, this is the stuff here that I just wish we as a community, I'm trying to just stimulate you guys to be real critical thinkers, be academically minded. I can't wait till you get to this point, right? So they say here the script combined with his language supports the editorial precepts dating of the text to the latest phase of South Arabian documentation. Its contents are rather distinct from the standardized Arabic phraseology of the Islamic period, specifically the first century AH graffiti, and as such speak to a late pre-Islamic or perhaps even a Paleo-Islamic dating that is the 6th or early 7th century, rather than to the period of the first 4 caliphs or the Umayyads. It continues. Let me get to the interesting point that I liked. He breaks down the politics of it all anyway. So he says here, cool, he's got an hypothesis. It says in the mid-6th century, between the years 535 and 555 CE, South Arabia was ruled by a vice-regent of Aksum, Abraha. He expanded the political borders of ancient Himyar considerably with military excursions reaching far into North Arabia. While in the earliest periods, Himyar's religion reflected Aksumite Christian dogma. Later inscriptions appear to show a compromise using neutral terms for Christ, such as Messiah rather than Son. Perhaps reflecting a similar spirit, the Basmala emerged as a compromise. Both South and North Arabian terms are treated as equals and would have been regarded as acceptable in the cosmopolitan landscape created by Abraha's expansions. Yeah. And then, jeez, we go in to find out that we can have you see the whole Rahman and Rahim. We find it in the Ethiopian, there's an Ethiopian double epithet. Here it says here, perhaps, hold on. M. Krop, in his multiple analysis, this is a big book. It's in German, but you can translate into English, basically. But anyways, this German book here, Manfred Krop, he breaks this down. But anyway, it says here, in his multiple analysis of this stylistic point, connects the double epithet to a biblical antecedent in Psalms 103:8, perhaps even modeled upon the Ethiopic double epithet, Mahari wa Mastahas. My Ethiopic Ge'ez is not that great, so forgive me. Mastahal, meaning merciful and gracious. The choice of the word Rahman in the Arabic, which is an unexpected rendition of the Hebrew, can be explained if we assume the starting point similar to the attestation in the present inscription. The tripartite Islamic Basmala was perhaps not developed as a direct translation of comparable tripartite invocations, but reflects the expansion of an earlier bipartite formula. As Krop explains, the new invocation simultaneously unites both names of the monotheistic god in Arabia and creates a stylistic connection with other monotheistic traditions with a double epithet. These observations complement Newworth's suggestion that the Basmala was responding to Christological formulas. So imagine that every time, this is what I want, for every Muslim on my channel now, every single time you open up the Quran, every single time you recite a prayer and you say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, realize this statement went back to the Ethiopians. Realize that this statement goes back to Abraha, who was uniting southern and northern Arabian tribes together and saying, you see your Allah over there is the same as our Rahman down here. And our Rahman is the most gracious as well, as a doublet.
So are you saying Abraha was the founder of the name Rahman?
No, we're saying that the South Arabians already had a religious community that called upon Rahman, i.e. the Jews called upon Rahman, and the Christians called upon...
So he's catering for the Jews as well when he's saying Rahman, right?
Of course he is.
Not just Christians.
Of course he is.
Of course.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
Yeah.
But now he's bringing the northern Arabs together who call God Allah, and he's saying, your Allah is Rahman, is the most merciful, the most gracious. Cheese. And it all traces back to Ethiopians. Cheese. So y'all Muslims, y'all Muslimin, start realizing, before you even open up your Quran, before you even recite a word, pay reverence to Abraham.
That's no issue. The Basmala has been ancient. It's been pre-Islamic in my head anyway. But what I'm trying to gather now is, so when Abdul Muttalib went to go and pays homage to the Ethiopian king. Yeah. Who was that? Are you saying that's Abraham?
I'm not even saying that, but there's so many contradictory stories here that
could Prophet Muhammad's grandfather or his parent, let's just say a parent, grandfather, uncle, whatever, did one of his elder relatives meet an Ethiopian king?
a lot of them did. A lot of them. If you read into Tabari, a lot of them did.
So
even before
did they meet? Did they meet Abraham?
Even before Abdul Muttalib, you have his who's before Abdul Muttalib again? Hashim. I think Hashim and them man there.
Yeah.
Hashim and Abdul Shams, yeah, who is the father of Umayyads. They had a contest to say who's the most handsome of them, and it's supposed to be the Ethiopian king.
Who's Abdul Shams again? I know that name. That's a nickname for someone. I swear that's a king, right?
No, Abdul Shams is one of the brothers of Hashim, if I'm not mistaken, and that's where the Banu Umayyads, can trace their lineage further back from. So yeah, we have stories in
what
there
I'm saying
they
is,
meet kings on a regular.
Oh my God!
They even meet kings to get their supposed charter to be able to trade in Yemen or in Yemen and Ethiopia.
So what I'm trying to figure out is, you see Monroe, he certified the Ethiopian king safe. He certified him. He's not making that connection you've made. So I'm just trying to understand who was that king they made, because to my knowledge, Prophet Muhammad's grandfather of a prophet to come. Remember, except for Prophet Muhammad's father, then the name Allah, you would never find it in his lineage and his genealogy. The person before him, made up or not made up. That name, we can trace it back to someone close to him. That would be his father. Yeah. So if he would have that name Allah, that would have mean he would have come from a Judaic Christian background, not just a pagan background. Because
I think it wouldn't come from a Judaic.
I don't think the pagan
come from a
Arabs
Christian
was worshipping Allah. Probably El or Hubal or Baal.
They were also, but you'll find it.
I don't know. You're gonna have to prove that, man. And I'm the Muslim here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They probably acknowledged Allah, probably Ilah.
Yeah.
But Allah,
but the term Allah,
God.
Yeah, the term
that
Allah
is Judaic Christian. That's not coming from no pagan.
I hear you.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So
the term Allah, in terms of the Arabian Peninsula, during that time period, was only found amongst, as far as I remember and recording information, found amongst the Christians, because the Jews called their God Rahman previously.
Cool. I hear that. Mm-hmm. But the king, this is the point now. The king, who was the king that Abdul Muttalib met? Because I can't really say Abdul Muttalib was a pagan. For all I know, he could have been a Christian as well. But
I don't know, man. I only deal with history in it. So with that, if you can't verify it, it's no longer history.
So then that's like me saying Muhammad al-Khuzay. That's no longer history as well, because we can't even verify the Khuzaa tribe. But we can't verify that, but we can verify the Mudar and the Ma'ad. And these are lineages that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, claims. Mm-hmm. So if we've got narratives of him claiming that lineage, and if you really want to take it there, and for asking for evidence, there's no proof of the Khuza'as, just as much as it would be Quraysh if we use your logic. Do you get what I mean?
I hear you. What I would say is that I'm not going to even entertain it, because I can't find anything historic to tie that together. I know what's it called? Monroe used to make that conclusion, but I'm not going to make that conclusion because there's nothing historic to tie that to. There's no documentation to tie that to. So, for example, there's no monuments.
The same kind of thing with Muhammad Quzaa as well. It's the same kind of thing.
No, it's not, because, for example,
it is.
Okay, so for example, you have
If you
Abdul
put the
Muttalib.
Islamic sources to the side, you can't bring his life to existence. It's impossible.
What do you mean? I can. There's literally a biography on this individual. He's just not called Muhammad.
Exactly. This is my point. Muhammad al-Khuzai. It's impossible for you to bring him into existence without Islamic sources.
Indeed. The Islamic sources are the places where Islamic sources is the place where we find that the individual in history is called Muhammad. Okay? He's been given the title Muhammad. In other sources, he's anonymous. He's given the name Gregentius. He's given the name Gregorius. He's given the Arabic name Nabi Allah el Georgius. Georgius. In other places, he's called the Orthodox bishop. So there's various, there's various different
titles
names and titles being given.
That Abraha's priest.
Yeah, that's Abraha's priest and bishop. Yeah,
it's all in reference to one person.
All in reference to one person.
You're actually gonna have to do a show on this one on another time or whenever you can still. So instead of just saying and leaving people like to certain, no, you have to provide that. Because what you're saying is a lot, Yeah. You're gonna have to provide it still.
So you see me, I'm just waiting for everybody to catch up yet again, right? Because all the shows, if I'm talking about something specific, it's always going to be cited, right?
Yeah.
And I always say to you, email me and I'll send you off everything that you need. Okay. So with that being said, we've gone through so much today, to be honest with you. We've gone through so much. The material's been up. And if you want to go deeper to find out who was this person in history, how he's multiply attested, right? We find him in the book of Himyar. We find him in the martyrdom of Harith. We find it in the life and works of Saint Gregentius and from the Greek records, and the life and works of Saint Georgius in the Arabic records, Christian Arabic records. We find him in the Islamic Muslim records as Muhammad. Like, we find everybody talking about Abraham and his particular religious leader.
No issues, like you're bringing him into life. But you definitely have to dismiss the Quran in connecting him and the Quran. That's not the same. It can't be. Because if he's a bishop and all of these titles and a Christian, they would have been following the Gospels, the New Testament, the Quran. Like, unless you're saying, because if you're saying what you're saying, then there's an accusation against the Christian as well. Because that means you're technically saying even their books, Matthew, was made by any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Technically, what you're saying, that a Christian can make up any book, and this is what's going on. So you're saying they were making books.
You have to read Christian history and then try to reformulate a question. Read Christian history. That's what I'm going to say to you. Read Christian history. And I would argue,
I hear you, but
I would argue, hold on, and I'm not arguing it today. I would argue that the Quran is definitely, once you read it from a 6th to even a 7th century, 6th to 7th century, late antiquity, i.e. Christian lens, yeah?
No, we can't do
if
that.
If you read it like that,
that's literally mimicking each other in script. There's actually gospel books out there that is the same as this gospel over there. The same. So there is literally a change that's gone on.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Change, if it's gone on, it can't be Christianity.
Okay, listen to what I'm saying to you, yeah?
Right.
If you, okay, and I'm talking to people who are non-Muslims specifically even, yeah? But you as a Muslim, it's going to be much more difficult. If you erase, your Islamic commentaries, your Islamic understanding of the Quran, and pick up, close your eyes, don't even, rip off the cover.
Yeah.
Rip off the cover of the Quran, right? Yeah. Even better still. That's going to be even harder to do because there's various stages that you need to be able to read the Quran in, okay? Then just pick it up. Choose any chapter you want in there. Pick it up and have your Christian of late antiquity lens on point as your means of exegesis or
But I
interpreting the
could have my
text.
Jewish lenses on as well,
Cool.
and I would look at it as a Torah as well.
No, I'm not saying that it is a Torah or it's
Because
a
remember,
gospel.
in the Quran, the pagans accuse the Quran and the Torah for being two types of magic. I forgot what verse it is, but the Quran was being compared to the Torah, even by the pagans. So I could put on a Jewish lens and I could read it like that. I could put on I wouldn't say Kemetic Jewish lens, but you can put on certain lenses and see teachings from it. Doesn't mean that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? It could be a thing of all these religions put into one, but the label and like the madhab, whatever you want to, like the way they went by, you can't say it's Christianity. No way, because it's totally different. It is different. You could say before Revelation they were Christians, fair play, but after Revelation you're gonna have to say it's something else.
Nope.
Because
I'll stick to my words and tell you it's Christian literature. But
how? Because a bishop ain't making no new gospel. You're gonna have to prove this, and that's gonna do damage to the Christian.
The Quran isn't a new gospel though. That's what you fail to realize. Number one, the Quran. Hold on. Let me say this to you. The Quran is not a gospel. That's one. The Quran was never intended to be a book. Number two, yeah.
Okay.
Remember, it's not Muhammad that compiled it into a book and made it into a book. That was his followers later on. They even what's it called? Protested against it. They were like, no, we're not making it into a book. This is not the Sunnah. This is not what was given to us. They even protested it until they finally made it into a book.
So what does that mean if they put?
So I'm just wait. I'm going to show.
It's not a literal physical book.
I'm showing you, yeah, that the author of the Quran. I'm not saying Allah now. We're using historical human terms.
Go on.
Muhammad. Let's say Muhammad is the author. Let's say he is the author. I'm not saying he is the author, but let's just say he is the author. Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote.
But he can't become. He can't be the author because apparently the Quran was never written during his lifetime, so he couldn't have been the author. He never wrote it.
What author?
Let's just say the one that authorized the teachings.
Author doesn't necessarily mean that. Okay, but that's because I don't want to go into too many difficulties because now I've done debates on it telling you that Muhammad was literate, he could read and he could write, but that's a story for another day, right? And okay, so let's just say he wrote or he authored several different epistles or risalas or what do we call it, articles, okay, each chapter or something, okay, and it was used for preaching, it was used for communicating teachings, it was used for all these different things. He never intended it to be a book, otherwise he would have made it a book.
Yeah, but the Quran blatantly says this is the book. Let me even go into chapter 2.
This is the book.
So what?
This is the kitab.
A physical book, not a physical book, but it's still intention.
Do you know what the kitab is?
What it's about?
You know what the kitab is? It's the Bible. That's what the kitab is. But anyways,
that's played out, Callum, man. Callum.
Okay.
I can't lie to you, my guy. It's because you got deep it, biblical scripture down to the Qumran caves, with all the scrolls and them, bro, they're matching. Even if they vary in meaning and wordplay, they're still like you can just tell it's from the kind of similar people or whatever, bro. The Quran is not the same, bro. I'm not even trying to glorify it like it's. Obviously, as a Muslim, we glorify it. But in this convo we're having, when I'm saying it's not the same, trying to separate it, it's not that I'm making it like it's almighty and great.
Do me a favor.
It's actually different. It's just obviously the stories of Moses and that are in there, but the wordplay and how things is being put and
this one I'm going to say to you. This one I'm going to say to you. Start reading some Syrian homilies. So I'm going to have to mute you. Go read some Syrian homilies, and then tell me that these Syrian homilies don't sound like the Quran, and yet they predate the Quran. Tell me.
The Syrian what?
Homilies. Just
what is that? Is that gospel?
Nah, they're not all gospels.
Then it's not. Then I can't. Fam, you gotta remember, I just need to go in my
But anyways,
notebook. But there's bare places in the Quran that says this is the revelation from your Lord. It's a wahi, whatever, yeah. So it's a revelation. It's a risala, yeah. Like what you just mentioned, is a risala, which means a message, and the Rasool, the messenger, yeah. So if they argued for it to be in book form or not book form, that's irrelevant. It's the intention and the whole thing behind it. What is its purpose? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the language in the Quran is not the same as the biblical language. It just not is.
I'm not arguing that it is. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying if you read Christian literature of late antiquity, okay, read that and then give me an argument that it's not in line with it. That's what I would say.
I hear you.
Just do
but
that.
The bishop thing is another thing, because it's a double-edged sword with that. You're not just hurting Muslims with that one. You're definitely hurting Christians, because if they can't see what I'm seeing by you saying that like a bishop just made the Quran, that means I can actually use your argument with their books that a bishop made that made that. We can say that because it will correlate with what you're saying as well, if that is the case. We can't just say, oh, this is the case for the Quran and not the case for the Gospels. No way. If this is what you're saying, what happened with the Quran, then we can 1,000,000% say it happened with the Gospels as well, because it would have been a tradition, something common and normal they would have been doing back then. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you.
So it's not just a one way you're going with this. This can be going in another way, and it's like
100%.
If Christians are gonna agree with that way, they 1,000,000% have to agree with that way.
100%, yeah. That this opens the door to a lot more stuff, yeah.
It's a messy door. It's a messy door. Messy indeed.
It is very messy because, yet again, right, as I said, what I'm opening up right now, okay, if Christians now would have to stop and think twice about cursing the name of Muhammad, right? If Muhammad is, according to this, is a bishop, an archbishop,
they're gonna reject that.
Yeah,
it's gonna hurt them.
Yeah, they're gonna have problems with it. Then let's just say that this archbishop did author certain texts that later on got compiled into making the Quran. I'm not saying everything in this Quran goes back to the original Muhammad, but we can definitely see the antecedents. I can definitely prove the antecedents of the Quran goes back to our bishop under the time of Abraha. Why? Because something simple as the Bismillah, which is found within inside of the Quran, is traced right back to the Ethiopians under Abraha and underneath his bishop. Okay, we can definitely prove that. There's no question about it. There's other text in there. We can find, as I said, with the Quranic Jesus by Carlos A. Segovia, he goes through it and he shows that clearly, certain things was introduced by Abraha, i.e. calling him the Messiah, calling him, various different terminology. We find it in the Quran. So these scholars are saying quite clearly the antecedents of the Quran we find during the time frame of Abraham. I just can't wait to the point where more compelling evidence says, you know what? We can't deny it any further. What we find in the Quran definitely, was prior than 632 or 654. It definitely goes back to the 550s and 560s during the time of Abraham. I can't wait. For me,
no, I can't lie. You see what you're doing now. Trust me, it's a roundhouse, because technically, if we understand what you're saying, then it's done for every Abrahamic religion. Wallahi, that's technically what you're saying. Because remember, in a way, Islam kind of brings validation to the previous religions before it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't lie to you. Like, even scholars know what I'm saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just the fact of the existence of Islam gives credence to the religions before. So it's not just a one attack. I don't look at it like that anyway. Separately, I just think the Muslims are the chosen ones for Allah. But in reality, the Jews, Christians, and Muslims, we all come from one source, one light, in my opinion. So it's not just gonna be a one attack here. You know what I mean? But yeah, that sounds interesting. I wouldn't have a
Do
complete
you know what's
issue
beautiful
with
as well?
that. The issue I would have with you is you saying that the Prophet Muhammad was a bishop underneath Abraham. Now, the title of him having bishop, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I wouldn't have an issue with that. It's the context and at that time what it meant. But him underneath Abraham, that's his little worker, whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? Like just underneath him, I don't know, man. I don't know about that.
Okay, so when you're part of a kingdom, you're going to be underneath somebody.
Of course.
So in that essence, he is underneath him. The bishop also has authority over a king. So, for example, the bishops also crown kings, right? So I don't know if you ever saw the Archbishop of Canterbury crowning, King Charles. They have authority to give him a crown. Do you see it?
No, it's double authority.
And then spiritually again, as you know, spiritually, they have authority over the king. So it's like everybody has an authority over each other. It's just in different ways.
No, I hear you still. Yeah. I hear you, but him, that the way you're putting it to how I understand is that he's literally underneath Abraham. Like literally, because remember, like the Quran came from Muhammad, right?
Yep.
So that means he was very, very close to the king, according to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You get me? And if Abraham made him authorize the Quran or whatever, he wouldn't just be a normal bishop. It would be like, I wouldn't say little mini Abraham, no, he wouldn't, but he's definitely, I don't know anyway. Just the king authorizing something doesn't even mean he's the author as well. So it's a techie one still.
Yeah. So for example, when you pick up your Quran today, you see that it's authorized by the King of Saud.
Yeah. No, I hear you know,
I sometimes we want to fight things, but it's like there's no point fighting it. Like I'm a subject of King Charles. Like it may not sound sweet to the ears, but it's still the fact.
I can't lie. The Abu Qasim thing, yeah. Why I even came across it, because if that's what you're saying, I can't lie. To me, that's evidence outside of the Quran of the existence of the Prophet, peace be upon him. That's how I was looking at it. Yep. But then when I came across the different spelling, I was thinking, okay, we might have an issue here. Then when I read the meaning, I was like, boom, yeah, we got him. You get me? I have a page column on this one. You get me? But yeah, you made a good argument still with the Najran thing. Definitely that's a good argument. The spelling is not the same. So we're going to have to see the Arabic text. You've put an allegation towards the situation. So you're going to have to prove that as well. But in reality, I wouldn't have a problem with Christians having a specific title for the Prophet, because he's spoken of, he's prophesied about. So he definitely would have been in Christian literature. So yeah, man.
All right, family tree. Okay, we've reached the end of this particular show. Like, it's been a good one. I'm glad that we're getting, we're getting some understanding in it. Like, so I know my brothers are asking me questions. They want to know a bit more, and hopefully we've provided information for them to know a little bit more. Again, you guys are welcome to come in. I'm going to post the link right now. I'm closing down the show. So the live section of
got an issue wants to talk to me. Come up, man.
Come true. Have a conversation. So let me just double back and just talk about what I actually spoke about today before I do close down the show. Apologies. Should wrap things up nicely. So we do a screen share. Oh yeah, screen share. We're good. I actually made this, which was, to me, looked very easy to understand. There you go. Crowned Muhammad. I just found it very interesting. The fact that, with inside of the Syria literature, we have Muhammad being crowned. You can find it in the Tariq of Tabari, volume 5, page 218 to 219. 217 actually. Go to 217 to 219. It's in there. We also find it in Ibn Hisham's Sirah as well on page 23. Okay, so page 23. This book right here, page 23, right? Before we even go deeper, like page 100, roughly around page 104 actually. It starts off with the story of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. But before we even get to that point, the author tells us about how Christianity got into Arabia, how Abraha was ruling and so forth. And he crowned a Muhammad. And if we understand the crowning of Muhammad, the context, what it means, the church or the cathedral being built, understanding that Abraha and the people of Himyar didn't have a bishop for so long, but finally Abraha built the church, built the cathedral, and of course in building the cathedral, building this throne, building this chair, it had to be filled by a bishop. And we learn that he filled the bishop by gathering priests together and electing a bishop out of those individuals. And we find it also, if we go back into the past, we find a similar story, similar narrations of what Caleb did. So Caleb, once his church was completed, just as Abraha's church was complete, he sent messages to Justin and the Archbishop of Alexandria, informing him of his conquest. Okay, we find that Abraha did send not to Justin but to Justinian the First. He sent messages to him saying he wants a bishop, but they wouldn't send him an anti-Chalcedonian bishop. So for years they were going back and forth, and no bishop was sent. So he's like, bun that, if the archbishop is not going to appoint me a bishop, guess what? I'm going to create my own bishop. But anyways, before I get to that point, just quickly read out. It says here, the archbishop, this is when Caleb sent it off to them. The archbishop promptly appointed a bishop for the Himyarites, who upon arriving at Zafar, consecrated the new church, baptized the locals, and appointed priests and deacons in every place. So we realize it takes a bishop to consecrate new churches. And we find here that Abraha is consecrating a new church. Yeah, consecrating this church. But how is he consecrating this church when he didn't accept a bishop from the other people? Because we find here, there was a priest. They call it the priest, the abbot of his monastery, but the right translation is he found himself a high priest. Okay, the high priest or the selected or the elected priest was the one that he made bishop. He crowned bishop, which is picked up in the Islamic narrative. Thank God.
Even him selecting it, what does that mean? That did he actually select it, or was it a group of elders, a group of popes as well?
It was a group of priests that came together underneath. So of course, everything is underneath his kingdom. So he has to authorize it, right? You see what I'm saying? So the priests had to come together and elect. This is how a bishop is formed. So there's three ways that an apostle is created. One, they would have to be there during the time of Christ and be one of his disciples and be sent out. Obviously, nobody's alive now that can fulfill that. So there's two other ways. The second way is by a college of apostles coming together, which we find in the New Testament, and selecting or electing one to become one of them, an apostle, or other words, a bishop. So that's the second way you can do it. Or a third way is how Paul became an apostle, which was simply by receiving a divine apparition, a divine vision, basically, of the resurrected Christ, who gave him a mission to go and accomplish. So those are the two ways that one can become an archbishop or an apostle. Those are the only two ways, nowadays that you can become one. Go into the church canon and you'll find exactly what I'm saying to be completely, or the Catholic canon, i.e. the universal church canon, and you figure out what I'm saying is completely the truth. But what was special? Hold on. But what was special with Abraha, according to the Syriac records, it was they gathered up the priest and they anointed one of them to be the high priest, who could now become a bishop. Okay, and that bishop, it can now elect other bishops, so therefore making him the archbishop, meaning the highest authority, and he now sits at the seat that governs the whole region that the king has command over. And he can name people bishops and priests and deacons. But before, they couldn't do that for 25 years. And you realize that during the time of Caleb, taking over was roughly in the 522s, 523s. And then we see that this inscription is in 548, which is roughly around 25 years later, which
So
we find
so
in the
it's
Syriac
safe to
inscription. So
say the
everything
people
just
of the
comes together.
elephant, yeah. If we take the Christian Muhammad narrative, yeah, it's fair to say that
Wait. That's the story for another day. We're talking about it off air. Let me wrap up.
No,
This
no,
is
I'm
me
not gonna
wrapping up,
say.
man. This is me wrapping up.
Let's take this backstage because I've got a good
Backstage, we'll take this, right? But again, you know,
Yeah.
when people ask me, oh, Cal, like, what book can I find this in? As you can see, there's not one single book. Yeah. Do you know how many?
Yeah, obviously.
You see what we brought up? We brought up inscriptions. One primary source inscriptions, right? And I'm reading from, and we have to read from the inscriptions and show you where it is, and show you. We was having this conversation earlier on. Show you the grammar. So now we have to go into the Sabaic grammar from academia. We now have to go into the Sabaic vocabulary, i.e. lexicon, etc., to find this information out. Okay, so we have that information. Then we now have to go into the Syriac records and secondary records that has this information up, so I can teach it to you guys. Like, there is so much research that goes into this, yeah. And then when people say, "Can you point me to one book?" I'm like, "You lot are taking the piss. There ain't no one book that exists." Kalam, can you write a book? I'm like, "Puss yours." How many of you lot? No, because I have to be real. How many of you guys donate to this channel? You lot are here watching right now for completely.
Even me, I'm not doing justice, man.
Do you know?
That's a little.
Everybody
something,
here
man.
is watching for completely free, and I don't even ask anybody to say like, "Oh, yeah," you get me? But I'm saying, imagine, you
But
know?
don't get it twisted. You've put out some books in the past.
Oh yeah.
Genuinely brought. Like, I've got a library here, like over 300 books. I'm loaded.
Hold on 1 second. Let me finish though. Let me finish and say, yeah. Like, if you don't want this information in easy to digest format, yeah, listen, put down some money. We'll get an editor. I'll give them the information and they can create the book for you guys. I already said it to you. That's the only way. But me, I don't have the time to sit down personally and write a book based upon all this information. This is like over like 12 years of research on this particular topic that I'm just, you know, giving out easy. Like, it's just from the tip of my tongue because it's in the back of my brain. But for me to seriously sit down and do this, yeah, hey, it's not my job. It's for academia to do. As I keep saying, these shows is to prompt the YouTube scholars and to prompt academia to pick up this research and go ahead and actually do the publications, right? Do you remember how I was talking about, hold on, see, look at this, yeah? Remember how I was talking about, you know, the other brother came up on it and talking about the whole Aisha story. Aisha being 6 and 9 and
I swear I can't be bothered to talk about that, blood.
Hold on,
that's
1 second.
To prove it's not the case.
I did a 3-hour long video on this. I don't know how many years ago. I can't remember how many, 8 years ago, how many years ago. I did a video on it. All right. You had people like your Christian princes and other people like, like I'm chatting shit. Like, oh, how do you, so you know more than Muslim scholars. Chatting shit, mind you, yeah? Then recently, academia picked it up. Academia picked it up and published something which is about 600 pages long. 600 pages long, saying exactly what I said 8 years ago. Based upon, you know, hadith, you know, going through the signs of hadith, etc., etc., etc. Bro.
Even David Wood the other day was like, historically, Arabia wouldn't have been doing that.
Exactly. So for me, I as I said, I'm years ahead of what's going on in YouTube scholar world. I am years even ahead of certain scholars already, like in academia. But for me to now publish works, yeah, that I did in 3 hours, but somebody has to write 600 pages that could have taken them 10 years to even create, or however many years to do. Bro, please, like, miss me. I've got a life and I've got family to look after. But yeah, so family tree, yeah. Like, if you enjoy this stuff, show some love. Share this with your friends, man. Oh wow, share this with your friends. I'm not even asking you guys for money, you know. Share this with your friends. Yeah, hit the like button at least. But anyways, yeah. So we see that over here. What was I pointing out? Let me just quickly remember what I was saying. So yeah, the archbishop, blah blah blah, appointed the bishop for the Himyarites. The point in priests and deacons, blah blah blah. Then we see Abraham now has a high priest or a chief priest that now consecrates the church or celebrates mass. But we don't ask the question: how can a high priest consecrate the church when it's obviously only bishops are able to do this? because this particular priest that is called the high priest or the chief priest was crowned, was coronated, was ordained, and made into a bishop, just like all the other records testify to. Okay, and this is where it all comes together. And thankfully, even the Islamic records even highlights this fact as well. Ha, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Yeah. So, anyways, I've gone through too much for you guys right now. You guys, the sources are here. Yeah. If you want the references for a lot of this stuff, apart from the books, apart from Tabari and the Sirah literature, I don't think it's here. But right here, you can find references to everything that we've just gone through today. Okay. And if you want this particular list, simply email me kalam@live.co.uk, KALAM@live.co.uk, and I'll send you exactly this for free, free, FREE. But anyways, family tree, I actually do want to close on the show, but we can continue conversation afterwards. Peace and love, and I'll catch you guys on another one. Oh man. Family, hit the like button. Young, Cali, baby. Peace.